Look at Darren.
Okay, Michelle, I can hear you. I think you're the only person I can hear.
You can hear
me?
Yeah. I guess I just got unmuted. Hi, Darren.
We're all on mute, but it says live, so I didn't want to talk.
Same here.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That sounds like Davon Fouché.
Hi, Kathy.
Why did you take the shade off? I said it couldn't fit you around like that. I'm gonna bring it back in though.
Can you all hear me? Wow, I'm so happy that you all are punctual.
Good afternoon, happy Sabbath, and welcome. My name is Antoniah Lewis, president of the Shiloh Chicago Academy Alumni Association, or the SC3A for short, and I am proud that we are celebrating 107 years of Christian education for our alma mater, Shiloh Academy, also known as Chicago Academy and currently known as Chicago SDA Christian School. We hope that you've enjoyed the events of this weekend where the theme was Black Families Matter. Last night we heard from Dr. Kim Logan Nolan on how her Black family has always mattered. And then we heard today from Pastor Furman Fordham II from Riverside Chapel SDA Church in Nashville, Tennessee, talking about because his Black family mattered. And so now, today, for our AY program, we welcome Edward Woods III, Director of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the Lake Region Conference. He will be moderating a panel on social justice and Christian education with a powerful group of alums, so we hope that you enjoy that as well. Please continue to give your support for our school as well as for our Alumni Association, and we really thank you for your support. At this time, I will open the floor to Esther Cross, one of our at-large members on our executive board, and she will offer prayer. Followed by her, we will have a throwback performance from the Shiloh Philharmonic Youth Choir, and then we will move on with our panel with an introduction to Mr. Woods by Marilyn Fouché. Thank you, be well, and be blessed.
Hello, Shiloh Church family, alumni, and friends. My name is Esther Robinson Cross. I'm from the class of 1973 and the class of 1977. Please bow your heads as we open our AY service with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all your blessings. We thank you for the word that we have heard from your manservant today that would enrich our families, and we ask you now to be with us as we go into our AY program. Be with those that will be presenting. Help us to learn something new that will help us to build a stronger foundation for your kingdom. We ask you to please shine your light upon our families and give us strength to overcome all the difficulties that we are dealing with. Protect us against any and all problems that we have encountered or will encounter. Lord, please bring us together as a strong Black family unit so that we can witness for you and that we may also be ready for you when you return. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Jubilee, Jubilee, Jubilee.
Howdy do, I'm Sid Ordauer, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to Jubilee Showcase, the program that brings you a wide variety of meaningful music, the spirituals, the gospel songs, the joyous harmony and rhythm of Jubilee music. With us on this program are the Philharmonic Youth Choir, directed by Earl Calloway. The Philharmonic Youth Choir comes from the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church in Chicago, whose pastor is the elder Samuel D. Myers. Since its inception in 1957, the choir has sought to glorify God with music, to enrich the musical heart of the church, to develop character, cultural taste, and ethics, and to provide opportunities for the development of youthful talent. These young people come from different social backgrounds and have learned to work together to achieve excellence in performance. Its director and founder, Mr. Earl Calloway, is an alumnus of the Chicago College of Music, and he is the fine arts editor of the distinguished newspaper, the Chicago Daily Defender, and of the Negro Press International. With William Ratliff as assistant director and Brian Jones at the piano, the Philharmonic Youth Choir and One God.
Millions of stars placed in the sky by one God. Millions of men lift up their eyes to one God. So many children calling to Him by many a different name. One winding their way to one God. Walk with me, brother, there were no strangers after His work was done. For your God and my God are one. One Father, loving is the same. Many the ways, all of us pray to one God. Many the paths, winding their way to one God. Walk with me, brother, there were no strangers after His work was done. For your God and my God are one God. Yes, brother, your God and my God are one. Millions of stars, millions of men, one God.
Thank you. This is a song that was written for our choir by Betty Jackson King, and we would like to dedicate it to Judge Archibald J. Carey, Jr. Come Down, Angels.
Come down, come down, come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Let God saints come in. Oh, come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Let God saints come in. I love to shout, I love to sing. Let God saints come in. I love to praise our heavenly King. Let God saints come in. Oh, come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Come down, angels, come on the waters. Let God saints come in. Did Jesus tell you once before? Let God saints come in. To go in peace and sin no more. Let God saints come in.
Mute, okay.
Sure.
All right, good evening. My name is Marilyn Fouché, and I'm from the class of 1962 and 1965. This evening, we have a panel of alumni who will be discussing social justice and education. I would like to bring on Mr. Edward Woods III, who is not only a friend, but the Lake Region Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director. He will introduce our panelists and lead out or begin our evening discussion session. Thank you and enjoy.
All right. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you very much. We have an all-star panelist from the great Shiloh Adventist Academy. Look at the smiles and wait till you hear them drop the knowledge and talk real life about social justice and what's happening with education. I like the young man from the DMV, straight from Chi-Town, got the smile and makes English come alive in the classroom. He wants English to spark motivation to his students, and he's doing it the right way by being present, intellectual, but making learning fun, structured, and organized. Chicago's finest, very own. Let's give it up for Darren Daly. Wave at him, Darren. Let him know who you are. All right, all right. For over 10 years, she's chairing the English department. She's a doctor in her own right, an English expert. And so she has to be proud of Darren because he's following in the footsteps of his big sister. Let's give it up for the one and only Dr. Michelle Graham. Let the folks see you, Shelley. Wave your hands. There we go. One of Chicago's Teacher of the Year from Shiloh Elementary and now taught at Chicago, gave her 7 years of completion and about to get her master's, a distinguished Webb in her own right. No, it's not Margaret, it's Sabrina Webb on the screen. Sabrina, welcome to the program. Glad to have you. Wave your hands for the folk. All the way from Huntsville, Alabama, by way of Chicago, a counselor, a big-time counselor in his own right, soft as a teddy bear, but always willing to speak truth to power, a pathfinder leader, keeping on the tradition of Brother Abernathy in Huntsville, Alabama at the Oakwood University Church. Your friend, my friend, all friends, the brother, Dr. Bishop. Let's give it up for Davon Fouché. Davon, wave your hand so we can see you, because we want everybody to know that you are in the house. Oh, nothing like having someone that knows how to clean teeth. You know, for all those who have potty mouths, you need to have someone that needs to know how to floss your teeth. A homeschooler in her own right, a legend in the making, an Oakwood alumni supporter, all the way from Houston, Texas. Let's give it up for Dr. Peggy Burns. Can you wave your hands, Dr. Peggy Burns? And last but not least, we see our brother, Director of Student Inclusion. What a time to talk about diversity. And we have the perfect person here, none other from Chicago. Give it up for Richard Colley. Richard is in the house. For some reason or another, Catherine, make sure I say it right, Catherine, not Kathy. Catherine is unable to connect, but she's coming back. And we want to give her a proper introduction. She spent 25 years in healthcare administration and 10 years as an urban educator with the University of Chicago charter school system, and even donated her time for 1 year as the principal and lead teacher at South Suburban, that's right, South Suburban Elementary School. Let's give it up for Catherine, let me make sure I get it right, Catherine Pilcher Kyle. So here we are for this all-star cast, and I know most of them, and they are not afraid to speak their mind. And so you are completely and totally unleashed. Say how you feel, mean how you say, and don't worry about it. The pay is still the same. So just say it anyway. And therefore, we're being open, honest, and transparent. So we don't have to worry about saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. Let's just get rid of all of that and get to the chase. Ratings are fickle. The ratings go up when you tell the truth. Ratings go down when you fake it. So let's just stop fake news. We speak truth to power and go from there. All right, you know, Marilyn loves us, so we might as well give her show that she wants. Historically, there's an inequality in our Black educational system. Do you feel that it still exists in our education system today? Double D, Darren D, come on with it. I got you first. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Yes. Well, thanks for the introduction. I'm still kind of living off of that introduction, but yes, those inequalities still exist. Being in the DMV area, especially so close to the Capitol, you see it daily.
I like that pun. I like that pun. With the but you all paid attention.
It should come down to proper funding and resources. As we know, public schools are funded by tax dollars. So within that community, if the tax dollars aren't high, the resources are lacking. So you see a lot of low income areas that have free and reduced lunch. So you see public schools where they're out in front of their schools providing those lunches for their kids. But yes, even at a private sector, because I'm currently teaching in a private school, but the minorities are my population, and that demographic is still lacking too.
Speaking of education inequalities, you know, with the COVID-19, you know, there's a lot of virtual learning going on. How is that digital divide coming from you? What are you seeing? Are they giving them Chromebooks? Are the cable providers providing reduced fees so they can connect to the internet? What are you seeing in the DMV?
Yes, they're giving those Chromebooks out, but of course, if the school, like a public or like a private school, can afford all of those resources, they look for grants. If they don't qualify for the grant, then they are trying their best to get the resources out. Public schools are providing Chromebooks for every student, and they are internet providers. Specifically, Verizon in the DMV area is reducing their costs for internet.
All right, Dr. Shelley Graham, you look beautiful, radiant, love the backdrop. Talk to us about English. You know, usually I like to have my English teacher in the room, but what is that now at an institution of higher learning, doing this digital divide, teaching online? You know, what are you seeing as relates to inequities?
Well, a lot of my students are at home with their children trying to be involved. So a lot of times I don't get to see them. They don't have their cameras on because they might be fixing breakfast, or they might just be doing something with their children. And they also have been talking to me about, you know, the children not having enough structure. You know, you have 9-year-olds trying to find their lessons virtually. Like a friend of mine, her child got a 0 on assignment, and it wasn't that because she didn't see it. She couldn't find it. She's 9 years old. So there's a lot of stress going on. So as long as my students kind of tune in, I don't really care if their camera's on, because if they tune in, you are winning, because a lot of students are not tuning in. And when in the middle of COVID, they talked about how there were high percentages of students just not showing up. But, you know, I teach at a community college, so I don't really deal with the children. I deal with the parents of the children. And sometimes their kids are at home, so they might not be able to be totally focused. They don't have a babysitter, so they're trying to be a mom and trying to listen at the same time. So it's challenging, but you know, I've been patient, and the students are troopers. They're very resilient, and it's okay, because I don't have my camera on all the time either. Because you know,
all good.
Class in your pajamas or in your bedroom, and sometimes I have been doing that. So, you know.
Well, I appreciate you keeping real, but one of the things about community colleges is that their teachers are known for investing a lot of time with their students. You know, they're really known. I've served 12 years on 2 community college boards, and I've always been impressed with the teachers in terms of how they spend time with their students, how committed and dedicated they are to student learning. And so you've mentioned with COVID, the more investment in time and kind of the awkwardness of having kids around. But is there anything else that you're seeing? Are you seeing any discrepancies or inequities, Black, brown, or otherwise?
Well, I was part of, well, fortunately, I think quite a few city colleges or just community colleges have been getting grants from different philanthropists. We've gotten millions of dollars of grants to help give resources to our students. Like there are laptops available. There were actually individual grants that students could apply for up to, I know in my school at Olive Harvey, our grants were like $400 was the max you could get. And pretty much we were calling students, talking to them, the ones that applied for the grant, and asking them what their needs were. And some of them were just like they needed food. And how can you educate someone when, you know, they're thinking about how they're going to feed their baby, and how they're going to pay their bills because they've gotten laid off. So, but like I said, we've been in a unique situation where we have had some grants available to the city colleges of Chicago. So for the most part, you know, our students are doing okay, other than just being techie challenged. And a lot of us are techie challenged. You know, for the longest, I couldn't figure out how to do certain things on Zoom. So I was just winging it with the students, but they're very patient and they understand. Just keep it real with your students and they'll be okay.
Thank you so much. Richard Colley, it's diversity and inclusion. Appreciate having you on there. Share what are you seeing in some of the inequities and how are they adjusting? How are you adjusting at the higher education as well as Dr. Shelley Graham? You're on mute, my brother.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Verizon works.
Okay, my man. Well, one of the things, like Shelley was talking about, another brother a little earlier about the grants that have been available. The CARE Act has provided necessary emergency funds, but one of the problems that I see, even if they give out a laptop, if I didn't have internet access in the first place, that could be a problem. So I know in some of our areas, being here in Huntsville, we have some rural areas. So there's not a lot of broadband and not a lot of internet access for our students. So I see that as some of the disparities. One of the things that I tried to do, or we're doing at my university, when they made the announcement that our school system was going on a 9-week virtual learning path, we've reached out to several of the colleges on campus to provide some just best practices, not just for the teachers, but for the families. I was raised with a grandmother, so imagine in this day, and that was before internet, and she had trouble helping me with homework. So imagine a grandparent in this day and age, as Shelley was saying. So trying to give them best practices, showing them how to screenshot homework, upload. These are words that we use every day that we kind of take for granted. So those are some of the things that I've seen in disparities, resources, and just the learning curve that's come with this pandemic and exposing some of those disparities.
Hello? Did they cut you off, Richard? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. It wasn't me.
No,
but
somebody cut you off. Come on, I want you to finish.
Yeah, so I was just saying that COVID, you know, there's an old expression that talks about if America has a cold, the Black community has pneumonia. And COVID has really exposed all those disparities economically, educationally, the technology that has been such a gap. It was Bill Clinton, I think it was, that talked about a bridge to the 21st century. He talked about how every child will have access to the internet, how urban schools, which is a code word for Black, will have a rebuilding, and none of that took place. That so-called bridge, if it was built, it was purposely set on fire so we couldn't cross. So this is how COVID has exposed, and some of the things that we're doing, like I said, is just trying to get families, not just students, families up to par and up to speed with some of those gaps and disparities.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Sabrina Webb, you know, you did such a fine job for us last year. We're so proud of you and your master's coming available this fall. in December that you'll be getting from Andrews. Talk to us about your experiences as relates to what you may see as inequities in education, especially from an Adventist perspective. Definitely curious to hear what you gleaned out of 7 years teaching at your alma mater. Can someone, whoever's controlling the mute, let them unmute themselves? I trust each and every one of them that is a guest. If they're able to unmute themselves, I promise you they'll behave. I'm not even worried about it for 1 minute. So we could just take that button off and let them unmute themselves. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will go before the firing squad if one of them misbehaves, including Shelly and Davon. I know them the longest. All right, go ahead, Sabrina.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Are you serious? No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'm so serious.
I'm saying, all right, we're going to repeat the question. And it says, historically, there's an inequity in our Black educational system. Do you feel that it still exists in our educational system today? And I'm having you speak from an Adventist perspective, you know, teaching at Chicago Academy.
Okay. Yes, I definitely do believe there's still inequality. Even in the Adventist system, we have regional conferences and we have state conferences. And there are certain biases towards conferences. If certain schools do well on their testing, but they're not in the state conferences, they don't really get recognition versus those who are in the state conferences. They're put on a pedestal, so to say. And even sometimes, you know, when students are tested, people are surprised that our students are so intelligent and they have this knowledge because we're in buildings that are not necessarily like state of the art buildings, and you know, we don't have all these magnificent building programs, but our children are still learning and they know a lot. So there's definitely inequalities. Also the testing, a lot of testing is very biased towards a certain culture. So that also makes it difficult. So even then, when our students do succeed, they're even more surprised. So those inequalities are definitely there.
Ed, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, I agree with the sister, and I think it's still connected to what Darren said earlier. When I first worked at Oakwood University, the first time I worked for them, I was a recruiter for the United Negro College Fund. And my job was to recruit specifically Black males and bring them back to higher education. When I would go to the white conferences on occasion to see the very small number of Black kids they would have there, the high schools, the academies, look like universities. They sprawling estates. I remember one in North Carolina, I think it was, had like 2 cafeterias on campus. Compare that to Shiloh Academy, where we went to school at, based in the urban city on the South Side, or Peterson Warren in Detroit. So there definitely is an economic reason for this segregation, and that is the new segregation in schools. It's no longer color, it's income, where schools are separated and students are separated, not because of their color, but because of their income. And if those resources aren't available in that particular area, those schools, those students will suffer, regardless of whether it's an Adventist system or non-Adventist system.
Dr. Peggy Burns, talk to us from a homeschool perspective, accomplished dentist in your own right. Sorry, I owe you an apology because my battery went out when we were talking, so forgive me, but appreciate you coming back. Talk to us from a homeschool perspective and what you saw as you taught your children.
Well, first I'd like to just say that I'm just pleased to be here and be a part of this because I am not an educator. Even though I did homeschool for about 12 years, 4 daughters.
That's an educator. It's a homeschool educator. We're going to give you credit because I wouldn't do it.
But what I will say, because I only have experience with Seventh-day Adventist schools. I went to Shiloh from K-3 to 12th grade. I went to Oakwood University, then Oakwood College. So all of my kids went to Adventist schools or homeschooled. So I really only have that to fall back on. But what I will say, piggybacking on what Richard talked about. This week I did a little research because it's been a long time since I've been home. And I found that in the Lake Union, they've got 4 or 5 academies. They got Wisconsin, they got Michigan, they got the one in Indiana, you know, all over the place. And for us not to have, you know, one academy in the entire regional conference, I mean, that's, you know, it's our failure, but I have to say, present company excluded, I think it's a failure of leadership. And I think that we just got to do better. We can't look for somebody to help us. You know, we have enough people. We return enough tithe and offering. We've been in this battle for a long time, all of us. I talked to my old Bible teacher, just let me say this, Mr. Harris. And Mr. Harris reminded me that whichever side you come down on, after the Racine project failed, for whatever reason, whatever, that the enrollment at Shiloh was under 200 in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, it was down to 100 or less. And then from 2004 to 2007, now these are, you know, I can't doubt them. The enrollment was under 100, maybe about 30 something, maybe 50. And when it was hard for me to fathom that because I'm old, you know, I used to babysit Michelle and all of that, but I'm not that old, but I guess I am that old. But, you know, Shiloh had almost 500 students when I was there. We went to band concerts at Broadview Academy, and my sister got first chair every time. Demetrius got chair, you know, Demetrius Jones, those guys, they held their own. And so my point is, you know, we have enough. If somebody knew in 1915 that Seventh-day Adventist African Americans needed some place for their children to go to school, I don't know why we don't know in 2020 that there, especially with the present leadership of this country. I don't know why we don't know that. You got 17-year-olds walking up and down the street with rifles. I don't know why we don't know, but I guess we don't know, but we better know something, because to see every one of our schools in this, I could be wrong, please correct me. I don't see in the Lake Region Conference an academy, and those academies are feeders into our universities. You know, everybody from Shiloh went to either Oakwood or Andrews. I mean, that was it. So I'm saying, you know, we got to take a look at ourselves. We got to say, what are we doing or what are we missing? Because to go all the way down, like I was talking to you about the shark, I did some research on that. The white shark, when they stop swimming, they die. So somewhere Shiloh Academy stopped swimming. You know, these other academies in Detroit, you know, they stopped swimming because we all had high school. So we die. So if we don't start swimming, we're not gonna make it. I think I said enough.
Well, I think you got the airwaves pumping, the ratings going. People are tweeting and telling everybody to check in. Did you hear what Peggy Burns said? She said it was a failure of leadership. But push back a little bit, Peggy. My father used to be superintendent of schools for Lake Region Conference. And part of this problem was we had people who did not want to keep up with their certification. And you had people who said that was okay. And
well,
I
you know, it's not just the leadership in the conference. I'm saying it's the leadership of the church is parents. I didn't have a lot of
different leaders, right?
I had to take leadership and say, okay, these are my 4 kids. If something happens that's negative, they're coming back home to mama. So the leadership role is not just for ministers, but there was a failure many years ago. And I think that we're reaping the consequences of many failures.
And, you know, to go back, you know, just in defense of the, you know, the Racine project, in my humble opinion, Dr. Charles Joseph was really ahead of his time. And what I mean by that is he saw what was happening with the finances. You know, for some reason or another, as a conference, I hold the laity responsible, and especially the executive committee, because they represent the constituency in between sessions. And we have to understand Civics 101, you know, they work for us. You know, somehow, some way, we feel like we work for them. But one of the things, you know, is unfortunate it didn't work through, but we saw that there was going to be a shortage in income. And we saw that there was going to be, you know, we don't do, you know, we're in the Midwest, we're heavy manufacturing. We don't have economists come in and look at trends. We don't have data with regards to people who are moving or retiring. Y'all don't want to retire here in the Midwest. Y'all, we go south. That's what happens. We go south. We lose people. We don't have data to track how many people are staying, when people are moving, how that will impact the conference financially. We don't really have that information. I mean, although the church is a soul-saving business, it's also an economic entity, and you got to know where your revenue is coming from. So one of the things that I want to commend Dr. Joseph was he was like, look, we're going to need an alternate source of revenue because we're not going to be able to keep this up. Unfortunately, like you said, depending on where you go, it didn't work. My mom served on the committee, you know, at that time. So, you know, I have some things that I was able to glean, and I actually talked to him. You know, everybody wants to talk. I actually talked to Dr. Joseph, and to understand what he was, and it was like, we need to diversify or we're not going to survive because we don't have the money. Furthermore, our kids deserve a better school in terms of a learning environment and technology that works, you know, ADA accessible, you know, a nice gymnasium, you know, all of that type of stuff. And that stuff costs money. And when you don't have money, you have to look at alternative sources of revenue. And that's what conferences are grappling with now. You know, we tried to do the same thing with the campground in terms of trying to find alternative source of revenue by renting it out for football camps. You know, we still need to find ways to look at alternative source of revenue because we're not getting the money that we need to provide for our students. And let's just face it, we got options. And when I say options, if we don't think the learning environment is correct or the school, they don't have to go to Peterson. They don't have to go to Chicago. A parent has the right to elect and send their kid to someplace else. And so we also have to understand we're at, as Dr. Reeves told me, you have to treat students like consumers and like customers because they have options, whether them or their parents, to go someplace else. Richard Kite, I know you want to say something, so I ain't gonna cheat you.
I did. I agree with you.
And I see you, Darren. And then
Yeah,
Devon, I'm coming to you.
I agree with you 100% on that Racine project. When I was at Shiloh, and I was there when Peggy was there, and I remember Davon and them, most of the kids that went there, a lot of the kids that went there weren't Adventist kids. A lot of the kids that went to Shiloh were non-Adventist kids, and they were there because of the quality of education. And Elder Joseph was able to have that vision. If we're housing everybody in this little parish hall, with some of the kids being in the church and most of us being in the parish hall, imagine the kids that we could draw in if we had a modern day school. And a lot of the people wanted to hold on, I believe, to sentimentality. We love that old parish hall, but it's antiquated and it did not keep up with the times. And because of that, here we are. I love that school. I went there, kindergarten to 12th grade, but it was a time that we should have moved on, that we could have moved on, and we chose to hold on to sentimentality instead of seeing the future. And sometimes that can be your demise.
Thank you. Darren?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate two things. How you mentioned, Woody, about the options that they have. We have to look to 12 years ago, there was no system of charter schools that's merging public funding and private funding to benefit the needs of the community. So that great shift of this new uprising of public schools, because in DC, the city of DC or the District of Columbia is 50% charter. So they don't have that total funding like we used to. And then also with the funding option, when we were talking about Adventist schools, because I do work in an Adventist school in the DMV area, I question the structure of Adventist system to the extent of why is Adventist schools, since it's been around for over 100 years, why are we still operating on tuition based? And that goes back to what you're saying about funding. We're not investing or providing revenue for ourselves and our community, and even within the Adventist community.
Spot on. Appreciate
Point
that.
on that. Oh, can I make a point on that real quick?
It got to be real quick, Peggy. Can I have
Real
it?
quick. There was a small school in Tallahassee where, Ben Crump, he was a member of that church in Tallahassee. And the members of that church who were, returning, or they were, I don't know how they did, but they were members of the church, did not have to pay tuition to it. Their kids didn't have to pay tuition at all. It was sort of like the workers' benefit for our church. If you're a worker, straight up tuition is 100%. So at that, he has a point there. I think Darren has a great point.
And then just so we're clear, the workers get 35%, unless it's a boarding school, then they get 70% off tuition. All right.
I understood it differently, but 70% is a big wallop if you got one or two at Oakwood at the same time.
Just want to make sure we're all where we are right now. All right, Davon and Catherine, we're coming to you. Davon, you're the counselor, so bring some balance to the conversation. Can you take us through a therapy session and help us to understand clearly the inequities that are taking place and the impact from a counseling perspective, because you deal with these students, they come to you. What are you seeing?
Well, Woody, I think when you talk about inequity, I think a lot of it, of course, we've talked about the external, but if you look at the internal when it comes to the Black family, what I see is a lot of times parents have had negative experiences at school when they were young, when they were growing up. And sometimes that is transferred to the kids. So even if a kid is quote unquote successful to a certain degree, there's something in the back of the parents' mind that still kind of goes back to when they were at school. And once again, our parents, the parents now, they would probably grew up in the 60s, 70s. I'm sure there were like racist things going on. I teach I counsel in a public school in the South in Decatur, Alabama. So I'm sure those parents have a lot of baggage. But a lot of times the parents, they kind of take their experiences that they've had and they put them on their kids. And so a lot of times, just for example, I had to call this student, he's a senior and he had gotten in trouble. School's only been in session for a couple of weeks. And I was calling not because he was in trouble, but just I needed some information. And as soon as the mother picked up the phone, Decatur High School comes on the ID. And so I say hello and she's just like, hello, because she knows it's a problem. I'm like, oh no, Miss Brown, Smith, whatever. No, I just need to ask you A, B, and C. But her immediate reaction is the school is calling me, so it's something negative. So I think a lot of times, if we look internally, parents, we need to kind of take, and of course, I know it's hard to kind of dismiss some of those bad experiences that we've had, but if it's going to negatively impact our kids and the environment that they're growing up in, because I'm not saying that the kids aren't going to have negative experiences, but we can add weight on top of that. So I think a lot of times as parents, we kind of have to check our emotions, check our experiences, check our feelings, and kind of deal with the kids that are in the present and in the now.
Thank you. Catherine, I want to make sure I say it correctly. Talk to us about your experiences with the University of Chicago charter school system. We did give you a glowing introduction. We're sorry you were unable to hear it, but glad you worked things out with the connection issues. But talk to us about charter schools. Charter schools have done, for some, a disruption to the public school system because some accuse the charter schools of cherry picking and making public schools or rendering them as reform schools. What do you hear when you hear those type of things and the inequities that people are alleging with regard to charter schools? How can you say push back on that?
Okay, hello everyone. I just want to start by saying thank you for inviting me to sit on this panel, and hello to all my Shiloh classmates, charter schools. Actually, I just want to clear up an understanding about charter schools. Number one, they don't cherry pick their students. That's first and foremost. For me, working at the University of Chicago, and I believe this is pretty much the system throughout charter schools, there's a lottery, and the parents fill out an application, there's a deadline, the lottery is public. You can come and actually sit and view the names being chosen. So there's no trickery, no selection of all of the straight A students, none of that occur at the University of Chicago. With that being said, we don't know what we're getting. We don't. And so you get students that have special needs and students that need special accommodations, et cetera. You have a regular school. So that needs to be cleared up. I don't know where that started, but that is not true. The other thing about charter schools is too, the funding a lot of it comes from sponsors. Only a small percentage come from CPS because each student is given a certain amount of money allocated per student. I don't know what that dollar is off the top of my head right now. However, the majority of our funding comes from sponsors. Individual companies that want to sponsor the programs that we have. We have at charter schools, you often are, every day the doors open and you have people walking through. There's no closed door policy. You're monitored all the time as a teacher, as an educator, and you have guests in the building all the time because they're seeking sponsorships. As far as education, I'm going to say this. Those who are educators and even parents, students, everybody learns differently. And it's really a wonderful thing when a parent can find the right place for their child to be educated. And the one size fit all is not so. We know that from being at Shiloh. So this creation of a charter school environment, I think is a good thing because it opens the doors to opportunities. Each charter school have a certain motto or some theme that they focus on, and they write an application for that charter school to be created. But I think it provides opportunities that some CPS schools or wherever other public schools do not.
I appreciate you clarifying because I know charter schools are different from each state. And it seems like in Illinois, you have a lottery system. So let me ask you something.
One more thing I want to say, the teachers at the school I teach at are all certified and endorsed in various areas. So I want to clarify that too, because that's a misconception. They believe that teachers that teach in charter schools are not certified teachers. No, they are. They are certified and have endorsements. I have like 3 or 4 endorsements. So yes, that's not true.
So there you have it for the University of Chicago charter school system, how they do it, lottery system, certified teachers. But Catherine, you also spent a year in an Adventist school. So we'd like you to compare and contrast. Educate us the difference between the charter school and the Adventist school. I don't know what this means, so you got to speak English. What does that mean? Are you going to kill me later? I got Dave. He's been protecting me all my life, so I ain't worried.
I'm going to say this. When I was called to interview for that position, I did it because I actually felt that the Lord called me to it. I'm going to say that first and foremost. Amen. However, I was heartbroken at the school and what the school didn't have, what the school needed, what the children needed. I ask myself every day, what happened? I remember Shiloh, which was a bustling educational community. I mean, our teachers were great. The students were learning, even myself. My kids are older now, so I don't know what happened with Peggy on that. I don't know what happened, but there's been an obvious shift in what we consider important And I remember when I was younger, Christian education was at the top of the list in our church.
Absolutely.
It was spoken from the podium, and the parents spoke to themselves about bringing their kids to school. And it seems like all the parents was on board, the pastor was on board. You got so much support. I don't know what happened. When I went to South Suburban, I promise this is sincere. The drive was about a 40-mile drive each way. I had a time to pray, cry, talk to myself, call people, everything. And I tell you, I was devastated at how much work South Suburban needed. I worked very hard at that school. The accreditation was suspended. They had lost it. I had to figure out how to get that back, and worked endlessly to bring up their curriculum, to assess students that needed special assessments for special education or special accommodations. The technology piece, I told somebody at the board meeting, one of CPS's worst school had a better computer lab than our school. It was unbelievable. It broke my heart. I just see a system right now, our educational system in Lake Region, it really doesn't exist. I personally coined the phrase, we're playing school, because what we had to offer them made me uncomfortable. And I'm supposed to be the principal. It made me nervous. It made me uncomfortable. I'm not a liar, and I'm not going to start telling people about how wonderful this school is and come to the school, which is what they used to want me to do, is go forward in front of people and give that spiel about coming to South Suburban. When I had to go forward to say something, it was always quotes from the Book of Education. I could not say, come specifically here, because the school wasn't adequate. The curriculum was outdated. The computer lab was non-existent. The facility itself, every day there was a problem. I'm teaching 3 or 4 classes and running the school too. It was unbelievable. I couldn't even they wanted me to stay the next year. I couldn't do it. I brought your curriculum up. I tried to fix as much as I could your computer lab. I got your accreditation back. I can't stay here. So I didn't renew the next year, because I knew you're not going to put in the work and give me the money I need to correct it. So I'm just spinning my wheels then. I would just be spinning my wheels, you know, and I just feel like at this point, we either should create one good school for Lake Region here in the city of Chicago that all these kids can come to and make it adequate and interesting and providing educational opportunities that we can compete with the worst CPS school here in the city of Chicago. Instead of having a site here, a site there, and neither one of the sites are functional.
Okay, well, we've heard that, but, and I'm hearing smiles and nods, I get it, but we also know that people are working hard. You know, there's people that love the schools. I think of Sister Godly, you know, in Chicago, loves the school, works and advocates for the school. And so I think you've given us a dose of reality, Catherine, and I don't want to diminish what you said, but how do we, you know, make the change? You know, Pam Daly is like my big sister. She loves the school. And I know people just love it, but something needs to happen. You know, Peggy already talked about the leadership at all levels, parents, teachers, everybody needs to come together. But there seems to be a hiccup. And knowing that all of you have graduated from Shiloh, you've talked glowingly about your experiences and what happened, you know, one, what needs to happen, you know, to make the change? And then 2, as a fellow alumnus, how would you contribute to ensure that happens? 1, what needs to happen, since we talked about it, a great conversation. And for those who are listening and might be disturbed, don't take it personally. This is a systemic issue that just keeps getting kicked down the road because we don't want to talk and address it.
Well, I
But
think
don't be mad or do anything like that. So let's just answer the question. And then for those of you that are listening or have some critics or want to call and go off or your feelings got hurt, it's too late for that. It is what it is. I hate to borrow a line from Trump. It is what it is. But guess what? God is still on the throne and this thing can be turned around, but we got to work together. So Davon, I'm gonna come to you. Then Shelly, you're next.
Who did you say?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Davon's first, and I'm gonna go to Shelly.
You hit something on the head when you said it's systemic. Okay, now I'm not in Lake Region now, so I'm not privy to all the ins and outs, but just looking at our denomination, you cannot tell me that our denomination does not have the money to support the Black schools.
Right.
I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to believe that. But like you said, it is systemic. So even though we are Christian, a lot of the white supremacy is in our church. It's in our denomination. So we are seen as second class. We are seen as we don't have to support them. That's how we are seen. And that's the money doesn't trickle down. And once again, I know we have things set up regionally, but you cannot tell me that the union, the general conference, the division, they cannot do a better job of supporting our schools. Just like Peggy was saying, hey, you go to Broadview, you go to the academies in Indiana, the one in Wisconsin, and then you look at what we got. That makes no sense, but it's systemic. And I know our church doesn't like to talk about the problems that we have with race inside our church, but until we talk about it and deal with it, these problems are going to continue to persist. You hit it on the head, Woody. It's systemic and it has to be dealt with. Now, and I know I'm Vinny, I mean, I don't know what the answer is to that, because it would be nice if you could say if they could support the schools more, if they could give money here or do something here, that would be nice. But once again, is that going to happen? Because we've been in this position since day one. So I really can't tell you what needs to happen, but that is the big problem. Our church can support our schools. Nobody can tell me anything different.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth because I know you speak very well for yourself. Would you think that we probably need to look at a restructuring and looking at a different model?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And once
okay,
again,
y'all yelling me off the seat now.
Absolutely.
All right, Shelly, go ahead.
We need to start keeping more of our money here.
Right.
I ride through my Black community and I see all type of different denomination churches. They have resource centers, they have beauty parlors, they have everything, because they don't send all their money to a white man and expect him to care about people of color, because it's obvious that they don't. We've been seeing it for years. We have enough people paying tithes. We have enough people supporting Christian education. We just send all our money away. So as far as restructuring, I definitely believe there needs to be a restructuring. Because I mean, they are just not supporting our community. They aren't.
And Woody, Catherine said it too. It is a failure in leadership. Back in the day, you had a different paradigm, a different mindset. And it came from Pat Burns. It came from my grandmother, Susan Lawson, Werner Leitner. It came from Brother Barnes, Reginald Barnes. They were the gatekeepers. They came from a different era, and they put that school on their shoulders, man. They did that. Burnett Graham, Shelley's dad, Dr. Graham, they did that. When that vanguard went away, leadership, I don't even know what the leadership was after they left. I don't even know what the leadership was, but whatever it was after they left, so went Shiloh Academy, Chicago Academy, or whatever it was. And as Davon said, if you look across our denomination, Peterson Warren, any school that is Black, the funding is different, the resource is different, It is not even comparable to what our white academies get. It's not even comparable. It's not. I mean, if you want to even look at Oakwood and go up to post-secondary, it's no comparison. It's no comparison. So the leadership has to change from the ground up. It starts with us here. Well, I'm in Alabama now, but it starts with the leadership on a ground level, the boots on the ground, like it used to be. My grandmother didn't have money, but she was on that school board. I know what she fought to do. She put furniture in the kindergarten room. She started the lunch program before it was Sister Underwood and them took it over. But it was a ground level. It was everybody. And because of that testimony, that's when the community came in. The kids that weren't Adventists, they could have went to Deneen, they could have went to some of the other schools in the area. They said, no, they doing something different over there at Shiloh. Let me send my kid over there. So it is about the leadership, man. It is. It really is.
Well, let me ask you all something. I mean, it's easy, as you know, to identify the problem, sit back and do it. But let's get back to, what are we willing to do? Are we willing to fund someone to come in and do a study and put together a plan to revitalize Chicago Academy? Or are we willing to
Chicago Academy?
What's that?
Can I say something?
I would love to be the principal of Chicago Academy.
Who?
Me.
Oh, you want to come back?
I'm just saying, if you're talking about change, brother, I would love, yes, I would.
Can I say something, Elder Wood?
Yes, Dr. Burns.
And I will work with you, Richard.
Come on, Peggy, come on.
So let me say this. Back to the domination. I think that, and hi, Kathy, my classmate. I think that realistically, it's not going to come back like a snap because it didn't go down like a snap. It was a progressive lose. I mean, we just quit going forward and well, sometimes when I look at the church, Shiloh Church online, sometimes you can throw a bomb in there and not kill anybody. So, I mean, everything follows, it feeds off each other. So I think that you really have to, we have to educate, just like we educate, I'm telling you, every church in the nation, they got a set time when they're talking about tithe and offering. You don't go to church, not online or not, and they don't say, okay, let's go. You can push pay, you can blah, blah, you can give a five. There is a time where they're talking about this is important, can't rob God. This is what's important. So I think if it's important for us to create institutions, then it's gotta be the constituents who demand it, because the leaders are gonna do what we demand. And if we don't demand it, then it's just gonna be more of the same until there's 20 people in the church too. And one other thing.
Now, Peggy, say that again, because I think that gets lost. Because when I see constituents rise up.
But the constituents don't get it. Because let me just say this. If the constituents knew that there was a full, or you say 70, I'll have some other folks that get a full. So you need to check Lake Region. But if there is a 70% tuition break, and it's not merit-based, it's not, I got good grades, it doesn't have anything to do with anything, you can't get any kind of scholarship unless you got good grades or something, nothing based on just, those kinds of things have to be looked at, because every other scholarship that I know of, and I got 4 kids that went to high school, college, med school, got one still in med school, you gotta have a grade somewhere, or score somewhere. You get a chance to say, well, my mama used to go here, so can I have some money? No, it doesn't. You got to have some kind of merit base. So these kind of, and they want to know what is the household income. See, we got to make these schools not only prepare them, but we got to make them affordable. Because if we don't make them affordable, you got 50% of Oakwood, getting 70, and then everybody else paying full price. It's just not going to be able to be sustained. And when Pastor Joseph, like you said, he told you, hey, we need revenues or we going down, I guess he was right, because now we're down. So 35, 40 years later, we in a hole and we trying to say, well, how are we going to pick it back up? It's got to be some structural change. And one other thing, and I'm going to get up. In 2018, they had that NAD, I think it was an NAD meeting for educators, for Seventh-day Adventist educators. And they voted, as I read it, to have a university system. And to me, that's a Slim Shady. That's the real Slim Shady. Why we gotta, why is there a university system? Are they gonna try to say, well, the enrollment is down here, or hey, we don't have enough money, so Oakwood, y'all, we're gonna let y'all be the farmers and the teachers. We're gonna let anybody want to be something else. You're gonna have to go to La Sierra, or you're gonna have to go to I mean, why do they get to control everything? And it's not because their numbers are going down. It's going to be a black and brown situation, like out there in Hinsdale. This is going down. It's going to be some white fight. So why do they get to control everything? And I think it's a failure of our leadership, because people like me, we don't get to make decisions on the conference level. We don't get to make decisions on executive board level. They tell us, this is what you're going to do. And so we either agree with it or we go to church somewhere else. So I think, if the constituents have to decide, enough of this. And I think when we do, we'll start making some head.
And just to correct it, the 100% tuition, what happened was Pacific Union College offered the 100% tuition to denominational employees. And so other schools matched it. And that's how they got from 70% to 100% tuition only is how they got to.
Right. Because I have a friend, since you brought that up, I have a friend who has a daughter who went with my youngest to Oakwood, and she didn't have the grades or anything. So he got the 100% tuition, but he had to pay a little bit of room and board.
Right, but they were the benefit as a denominational employee.
As a denomination
employee. So let's not say, I don't want anyone to think it's merit-based.
Okay, but my point is, it's not a merit-based scholarship, because his son, who had grades and the grades and everything, he got the 100% plus the money he would have got from the UNCF went on his room and board. So he said, I don't pay nothing for my son. So, from zero and everybody else struggling to pay $16,000 a semester. That's just an example, though. I don't mean to disparage anybody. I'm just saying, you gotta break that up, because if I make 60,000 or 40,000, whatever it is, I don't know, but my wife makes 80,000, she's a nurse, or 100, you got a household income that's higher than your constituents. But your constituents are subsidizing the scholarships for workers' kids, but then they gotta go ahead and pay if they want their kids to go to the school. They gotta pay full price, and they gotta subsidize 10 or 15 or whatever percent they're paying on tithe and offering. So that's what I'm saying. See, these kind of things you have to fix it, because if you don't, then it's just going to be more of the same. And I read this week in Ellen White, she says that this is her quote, "It is not now safe to send your children to public schools. It is not now safe." Well, if it wasn't safe back then, I don't even know what it wasn't safe for mine. And they're all grown, practicing. So if it wasn't safe for those, what is it for these kids out here? So I have said too much, and I'm gonna let somebody else talk.
Hey, no, just kind of piggybacking on Peggy. Hey, because I feel this, because I got a daughter. She's a freshman at Oakwood. Now, my wife and I, we don't work for the conference, so we got to pay that 100%. And we're talking about doing something to bring the tuition down, because not trying to hate on anybody, but hey, if you work for the church or whatever, you get that 70% off. Hey, God bless you, that's fine and good. But I got to pay the 100, and then I got to pay the 72. Right. Somebody else is 70. So hey, that hits me kind of hard, And that's what I'm saying. We got to look at this whole thing, how to bring this tuition down. Because once again, why are you going to pay that much? And
And she can go for free somewhere else or darn near.
Yeah, and then sometimes, you know, Christian education, that can be kind of a hustle. I mean, hey, I hate to say this out here, but you know, I mean, they kind of say that just because they know everybody that grows up in this church is going to send their kid to Shiloh, they're going to send their kid to Oakwood. So it's like, maybe our facilities don't have to be on par. Maybe our, like you were saying, the computer program doesn't have to be on par. You know, because hey, everybody's just going to send their kids, because that's what I did. That's what my mother did. That's what my grandmother did. Everybody does the same thing.
That's what we do, but it's not happening like that anymore.
Yeah,
it's not happening like that anymore.
Because you got options now. You got options. So that's why you have to look at that, because everybody doesn't work in a church school. And once again, hey, I work in a public school. And I know people that work in the Adventist school, they make less, but if you make 70% less than I do, I don't know how you live it. I mean, I don't know if you're making 70%. And pastors, you're not making 70% less unless you're comparing yourself to T.D. Jakes. You know, Pastor Bird at Oakwood's not making 70% less than the guy at First Baptist down the street, you know. So we got to look at that whole thing. We got to bring some equality to that, because people are hurting. They want to send their kids to Christian education. They want to do that, but they can't afford it, you know. So yeah, like you said, Woody, we got to look at that whole system. We got to look at the whole thing.
All right, Shelly or Darren, who or Sabrina, I don't want to cut anybody.
I just need to say one thing.
Yeah, Darren, please, not just one, just say it all.
Okay, it's just when you ask the question of the restructuring, all that, and Richard, and I want to call, you know, Aunt Kathy, you know, I'm here and I want to come back. I'm in the Adventist school there, and it still has its issues. But what I'm trying, the restructuring is not on the lower level. It's not, because you have your, like you said, your Miss Godly, your Fouchés, you have those people, my mother, you have those people on the local level who are doing it. It's not that, it's the conference. Conference need to change. Conference need to put the funding where it goes. I work for the Potomac Conference. They say, okay, we're going to hold, you know, they give 100% to the NAD or whatever, and it trickles back down. He said, well, I'll give you 80% and we keep 20. That 20 is still not doing nothing. That 20 is not doing something. So it's something in the conference level that needs to change.
And we keep
any vision.
It's something that needs to change on the conference level. It don't need to go to the GC.
But the conference
coming in on a conference level.
But the conference level won't change unless we make them change. Policy.
That's the thing, though. I'm sorry. Coming from the conference, I'm not currently in Lake Region. I'm in a different conference now, but you can say whatever you want as far as, you know, things that we need to get done, but the support is not there. We need people with vision. That's the problem. We have leadership lacking vision, and we can talk about getting a new school. We've been wanting to do that. I don't know if the sentimental piece is still there. I mean, it's always near and dear to our hearts, but it's right next door to the church. Like, if you want to see it, you can go visit. We want a new school, but the funds are not there. The support is not there. And then we're being told, you know, we're demanding too much. So therefore, it's like, what do you do?
And then if your leadership doesn't have kids within the school, and that's the shift that you guys are talking about. Shelly's dad was providing for or helping with the school because he had kids in the school. So they value the education there. You have people in leadership whose kids are not K-12. So they don't have that I need to fix this school to better my children's educational system. They're not actively in the school.
And when he left Houston,
exactly,
he went to Atlanta and he made it happen there.
Exactly.
He went to Oakwood. They're about to close Oakwood Academy, and he made it happen there.
Yep.
So it can happen if there is if there's some leadership that says, "Hey,
vision.
Move this forward."
You know what? You know what I think? I think that the right people have to come to the table, and in a lot of cases, we have individuals making decisions that have no idea what education is and the needs, what is required to create a successful school. We need cheerleaders, we need sponsors. Yes, we do. But we really need to get together with the right people at the table to really talk about how to create a robust school here in Lake Region Conference that's successful for all these students. And I mean, just like old Shiloh used to be. It's not that hard. It will take some finances. And I used to talk with individuals at Lake Region when I was working there about how much this school needed. And they were like, oh, okay. But I don't think that that is part of their mission. It doesn't seem like that's really our church mission anymore. Not like it used to be.
It's not.
Well, then what I'm hearing, because I don't want, hold on, Peggy, what I'm hearing is I don't want people to go away. You know, we had a vent session, you know what I mean? We talked it up, shot the break, and everybody gets mad because all we did was point the finger, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And we didn't solve anything. I mean, this is like a good a good Sabbath dinner conversation. You know, we had the mac and cheese, we had the greens, the fried chicken was on point, potato salad, and then fresh squeezed lemonade. That was great. We talked, we chopped it up, then we left.
No.
But it comes back to,
No.
you know, since we're talking about Shiloh and the alumni, what can we do? Because it's easy to point the finger. It's easy to say people don't have vision. It's easy to say people don't understand. But the one thing that I heard, I keep hearing over and over again, is the school thrives when the constituency is alive.
Well, but
the school thrives when the constituency is alive.
But you can't. You can't. I know you don't mean it, but to me it sounds a little dismissive to say that we're just venting, because I've heard on this call some real solutions. Number one, let's make it affordable. Let's make it affordable. Number two, I read an article a year ago, some people writing about we don't need regional conferences anymore. Anybody read that article? Guy was like, why do we need it? You know, we got Barack. I mean, we don't need regional conferences. And the people I went to Oakwood with were in an uproar. What are these people talking about? Blah, 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 blah. But we're gonna have to, if Shiloh, if you don't look at your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And like you said, Elder Woods, you were told we need another source of revenue or we're gonna lose this school. It's going down. But we didn't pay any attention to it. Maybe somebody dismissed it and said, well, you know, what can we do? If we don't do something about the equity in our schools and in our conferences, every single conference in the union got a school but Lake Region? No. Then that means whoever the president is of Lake Region need to be like, oh no, sir. My constituents will not stand for this. And then he needs to explain to his constituents, hey, all the other conferences in the union, they got a high school. How come we don't? We need to demand it. But your constituents might not know that. So there is, if we don't, I would hate to see the regional conferences go down. I would hate to see Oakwood University, my mother's alma mater from the 40s, 47, go down to where Shiloh is. But if we don't watch it, if we don't make sure that it's affordable for everybody, everybody's not going to be able to go. So we've done more than eat the macaroni. We have some really three things: make it affordable, and we need to demand leadership, and we need to say, hey, president, whomever it is, because I'm not in that conference, but my president, the same thing. It's nothing down here in Texas. Holding on to Fondren. Nothing down here in Texas. Nowhere in the conference is there, in this conference, is there a high school. But then we want people to go to Oakwood. But you can't hardly get people to go to Oakwood from this area because they can get free tuition, and you got other Black colleges here too. So you can't even go the HBCU route. So we have said some things that I don't think it would take a long time. Make those scholarships some merit based to them. Make those scholarships, some household income based to them. So some single mothers in our church might be able to send their kids. Let's divvy that money. That's a simple thing that could be demanded and done. So I know you don't mean to, but I felt a little dismissive. I don't
want to be dismissive.
I know, it might be me, but I'm just saying.
No, we're gonna straighten it up.
We had some real suggestions that we're gonna need to save it, because if the Lord should tarry, there might not be a regional conference. And somebody might say, why do we need it? We got to go to Hinsdale anyway, or, you know, what do we need it for? We don't have Oakwood, we just go La Sierra. Or, you know, it sounds silly, but I never thought Shiloh would be where it is either. And certainly church.
You're on mute, brother.
Yeah, one thing, and you were talking about solutions, and hey, and I'm gonna step on my toes right now. I think the alums of Shiloh, we got to do a better job of putting back into the school. Hey, and I'm on Front Street on that. I haven't supported the school like I should have. I haven't, you know, not even just paid the dues or, you know, supported. You know, I know the Madam President, she comes on, you know, I see her on social media, you know, asking for support. So I think, you know, we have to do a better job of supporting the Alumni Association and supporting the schools. Because if you look at other schools, whether they're Christian or public, they have, you know, those schools that are doing well, they have, you know, of course, the endowments and everything, but their alums do a really good job of pouring back into the school. So, hey, like I said, hey, I'm the first one to say, hey, I haven't done what I should have done. So I got to make a commitment, and I have to support the school Alumni Association. I have to do a better job of that.
And I appreciate that. And I'm going to make sure we're not being dismissive, but we're looking for tangible, you know, we can say make tuition affordable, but you're still struggling right now to pay teachers. So, I mean, so how is that going to work? And Sabrina, you smiling, but I mean, that's the reality. If you keep trying to make it affordable, how are you going to pay the staff who are underpaid in the first place? Go ahead, Sabrina.
That's exactly what I was going to touch on. Different revenue sounds great, but until we know what that looks like or where that would come from, it's just an idea. So for us, from working at the school, I've been told either we pay our bills or we pay you guys this month. Tuition's not super expensive. Well, I don't.
It says only $350 a month.
I'm not paying it, but what'd you say?
They told me it was only $350 in a month.
$350 a month, right?
Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to go up, but they want to help parents and, you know, be considerate in that way. At the same time, it's still a business and they still have to pay teachers. So I was even curious for the schools where people were going for 100% tuition off, like how were they paying the teachers? How was that working?
Well, what you do
get donors, you get
it's 100% tuition. Also, that's for the workers. That's part of their package. So that makes tuition on people that have kids there. Like I did. Somebody reminded me that I was paying tuition at Oakwood from 2006 to 2020. And I was like, I almost slit my wrist, but I didn't. But I'm saying that to say, I know about tuition at Oakwood because that was been my experience. And so I'm saying, if you have tuition going up and up and up and up on individuals that are paying, then that's how you support a package where the tuition is no tuition. Or the tuition is handed to you.
Why wouldn't we also go out for community and corporate? Is there anything wrong with that?
What do you mean?
What I'm saying is in other institutions of post-secondary, whether it's Athens State University or even Oakwood or wherever, they seek out funds from corporate and community. What would make Shiloh or
we get funds from Title I.
Because if you
corporate specific,
yeah, like corporate money, like let's say you guys specialize in a curriculum, or just to say hypothetically, we reinvested in technology, or we saw that 20 years down the road, this was going to be the new buzz field, and we wanted to get them ready for it. Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, the kids you have now have never known life without the internet. So what are the jobs that are going to be available 20 years from now, knowing that, you know, they've never known life without the internet, that we can prepare them for and get them going? Because let's face it, corporations move where they have a workforce. So how do we do this paradigm shift, you know, looking at education and seeing how we can make the future workforce employable? To me, is something that any Fortune 500 company would want to do to ensure its workforce. And why wouldn't they want to partner with a school district like that?
Absolutely. Isn't that what Catherine said when it comes to charter, that they get a portion of funds from
it's not a religious-based
public? Right.
That,
That's
Well,
it.
hold on,
It's
Catherine,
religion.
go ahead and say
It's
what
not
you're going to say, then
religious-based
Darren.
school.
Go ahead,
Can I
Catherine.
say something?
But
Um,
even if it's so Oakwood or Andrews or any other institution that is quote unquote a private school, they still seek money from outside entities to cover their expenses. They get donations. Why wouldn't we do the same thing for Shiloh? Why wouldn't we do that? Or any other academy that would be Black? Why wouldn't we do that? What would be wrong with that mindset of saying, like a charter school that, or I believe it was, my kids went to a school here in town that was called New Century. New Century, before Alabama said we could do charter schools, it was like a charter school. Mm-hmm. One of the businesses, SAIC, was sponsoring that school. They didn't have sports, but they paid for a certain curriculum. We're here in the Rocket City, so they paid for aerospace. They paid. Why wouldn't we do the same? Simply because we're a private school. We're not selling out what we believe in, but we are seeking other entities that would have money to support us. Why wouldn't we do that?
It would be something written in the contract because it's a faith-based organization or religious-based. There's a lot of stipulations that keep us from accepting money from outside of the church. Now, what they are, I don't know the fine print. I can't think of it right now. But what I did want to say is I agree with what the comments have been made regarding tuition and the comments that have been made about alumni supporting the school. But before all of that can be made possible, what I want us to think about is the state of the school today and how do we make that, how do we change that? Where do we begin to really, so we're sitting here talking about we want the demise of Christian education in Lake Region. So what are we gonna do about it? We can't really discuss tuition right now because if we said the tuition was zero, I don't think parents will bring their kids because you have to have something to offer the parents.
We really have to get a redistribution of funds in the union. It just has to be a redistribution of funds our way because it's been going the other way too long.
Absolutely, you would need
to start with, hey,
a lot of money.
We got to have a redistribution. This isn't working for us.
But I think Shelley also brought a point up was we got to invest in our own. I mean, she said it very clearly about the churches.
The money we spend is our own. The money that comes from Shiloh, the money that comes from the constituents of Lake Region Conference is from us. It doesn't grow in the grass and we pick it and send it up. It's money that we earn, that the Lord said, I'm going to give you this. I want this much back. We let somebody else tell us where, we let somebody else decide where it goes. I remember, this is a long time ago. I went to a constituency meeting and I think it was primarily about the Racine contract. I don't even remember, but I just remember one old lady getting up, and this is 1980. I guess I just finished dental school, must have been 86 or 87. And she said, God says, put this money in the storehouse and not the White House. And what she was saying was, we let other people determine where the storehouse is. Yes, there's a storehouse, but God wants my children to have something too. God, just like he wants all those kids at Indiana, at Cedar Lake Academy, at the academy in Indiana, he wants those kids to have something. He wants our kids to have something too. So when we make less than anybody else, we need to say, you guys got to support us now because you haven't in 30 years. We need a redistribution. We need a big hit. And because then that's to show us in good faith that in good faith, you're going to include us in the brotherhood of churches so that we can educate our kids and fill up our universities and fill up our churches. But if we don't demand it, it's not going to happen. We need a distribution of funds. We need a redistribution. This stuff got to be redone or we're still going down.
Okay, well, I think now we're hearing very clearly that we need to look at the redistribution of funds as relates to Christian education. I mean, I think I'm also hearing that Catherine said that we need to look at, okay, here's the state of where we are. What can we do now to make our schools of choice? How do we get a redistribution of funds? And then going back to Davon's point, and then getting alumni to support the schools. So I think we have a three-part plan in terms of look at, we assess where we are today and what we need to do to become a school of choice, then do a redistribution of funds so that we can become a school of choice, and then having better support amongst alumni. Who would disagree with that and why? Wait a minute, y'all not all talking at once. Something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong. Because I've heard y'all this whole conversation. Something is wrong, something. Marilyn, get on the show, please. I don't know what happened to these guests, but they got quiet as a church mouse. And that was physically impossible 10 minutes ago.
We were agreeing.
Okay.
You said if we disagree.
If we disagreed, you would have heard it.
All right. I apologize. Okay, Darren, what do you want to say?
Well, no, like Shelley was saying, I agree with what you're saying, but it goes honestly to what Richard was saying. Adventist education needs to operate as a charter system. We have to operate where we're getting funding from these different organizations to pour back into the school. Our public funding will be the conference, but we need these different entities to pour back. And we start our own Chicago public, private charter system, Adventist charter system. And that's where I think the redistribution will begin.
And I think that's helpful to add to it.
But just for clarification, charter schools are not private. So however way we create that, we can't say private.
Right, for sure. But
okay. There's some nuances in terms of the lingo, but what he's basically saying is we need to look at more funding than just what we get from the conference, so we can have these collaborative partnerships with these businesses that can support. And I think we can all agree with that. I mean, why do we have to wait till we're in college to get internships? Why can't we start internships at elementary school level? You know, we did show and tell, you know, but why can't we show them how the world of math applies to a job now so that we can get our kids motivated and inspired?
You know what, Woody, one of the things that, because of COVID, we're doing a roundtable at Athens State. We've gotten together with Alabama A&M, J.F. Drake State Community and Technical, the Huntsville Chamber of Commerce, their workforce development, our College of Business. The person working there for us is Dr. John Moore, who's an alumnus of Shiloh Academy. And what we're going to do is we're going to junior and senior, regardless of what district, regardless of what high school, specifically looking for young people of color, teaching them leadership, teaching them workforce development, not waiting for the internship for when you get to college, bringing corporate entities to them, because this is a new normal. And we need to look at funding Shiloh as a new normal. We cannot do it the way we used to do it, even though we're saying redistribute the funds from the conference. Why just the conference? Reach out to other entities where we can be fully supported and get our kids what they need for this new normal. For the
Let me say this, Richard. I didn't say just the conference, but it's clear.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Peg.
It's clear that we don't get a return on what we put in.
Yeah, and
compared to other conferences in the union.
I agree, but we shouldn't just look for that. Oakwood University is on used to be on when Tom Joyner was on the air. Used to get they used to be the College of the Month, which really lasts a year. Right. I was one of the students honored with the scholarships. They didn't turn down Tom's money because some of the people pouring in were Anheuser-Busch. They just said, well, we can't take that because it's against our beliefs, but we'll take craft. We'll take that money. We'll take some other money. And we need to look at doing that on that K through 12 level too. We need to start preparing our kids, and the only way to do that is to have multiple revenues of income coming in to our schools, and we shouldn't be afraid to reach out and run it, as Darren said, like a charter school. We shouldn't be afraid of that.
And I think, I mean, if you don't have the funds, you're not going to survive. And if you're not willing to look at doing things differently, you're not going to survive. So having said that, the dean of this conversation, Marilyn Fouché, says, we need y'all on a task force. And she's thanking you in advance, Peggy, Shelley, Darren, Richard, Devon, Catherine, and Sabrina, for volunteering to be on this task force for the turnaround of our beloved Shiloh Chicago Academy. So we just want to say thank you. I should say on behalf of Maryland, I want to say thank you for your willingness to join the task force. Devon, you have something to say?
Yeah, just going back, just piggybacking on what Richard was saying, and I think this goes to leadership as well. In Lake Region, I'm not sure what the leadership structure is, but I know when I was growing up, sometimes a treasurer of the conference would be a pastor that took an accounting class. You know, when you look at leadership, it needs to be somebody that has like an MBA, somebody that went to school for business. It doesn't need to be, our treasurer doesn't need to preach, okay? The treasurer needs to take care of the money, say, hey, this is the best business plan, things like that. So, and like I said, I don't know how it is now. I know Philip Palmer, you know, he was a graduate from Shiloh. He was a treasurer down here for
He's
South
our
Central.
treasurer. He's a treasurer here in South.
Okay, yeah. Hey, now Philip got credentials. You know, that's what that brother does. You know, he's not a pastor. This is his job, you know. So when we look at leadership, you know, I know a lot of times we like pastors to be in leadership positions, but we need to look at people that have those gifts, that have had training to do that specific task.
In the Constitution here, you can only be a conference president if you're an ordained minister.
Well, that's a standard constitution.
Okay.
So that's not unique to Southwest.
Well,
but Devon, to their credit, they have progressed, and most of your treasurers, if not all of them now, have business background. And that's another thing to, you know, the pioneer leadership of Lake Region and Elder Jesse Wagner. You know, he was the first one that started it. And actually, I forgot the name of the first one, but the second one behind him was Isaac Palmer Sr., who also had a background in business. So we had two off the bat that did that. And that was, you know, really
talking about at the presidential level.
No, I understand what you're talking about, Peggy, but I'm going back to Devon's point first about a treasurer. So some of that has changed, Devon, because, you know, when we grow up and you see these things, you know, our parents being actively involved in these constituency meetings, we hear stuff and rolling their eyes. I get all that. But going to your point, Peggy, a part of the model constitution of the North American division for local conferences requires that each and every president be an ordained minister of the gospel. That is correct.
And also in the NDA that does exclude women, because
that is correct.
Be ordained.
That is correct.
So I think that's another, that, you know.
That's another situation. But we already know that Southeastern Conference in California does have a female president.
I'm not talking about, because they know what they're doing out there, because they don't have no regionals out there. So they know where they're headed, and nobody's gonna tell them. But I'm saying, as far we can't be, please, if I am coming off as disparaging the ministry, let me first say that that is not my intent. I'm just saying, when we talk about structural changes, we're not just to whistle and Dixie. There's a lot of things that just need to be brought up to 2020. And I wouldn't have said anything if he hadn't said, you know.
Oh, don't blame Devon, Peggy. You speak for yourself.
Okay, he didn't say the president. I said it. I think it's a travesty. I think women ought to be ordained, and I know I'm not alone on the panel with that. And I think that you know,
that's another show, Peggy. Can we just bring you back to another show? That's another show. That's another show.
Don't want to hear it.
No. I agree with you 100%.
If we're talking about systemic change, that is relevant.
There's no way in the world.
That's relevant if we're talking about systemic change.
I think it is.
I'm all for the sisters. I'm all for the sisters.
I'll give it to him. I ain't trying to knock him or dismiss him. But that's
Because
another
you wanted to talk about the Southeast Conference having a woman.
Southeastern California. I'm just saying they do have one.
They have a woman president.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So I get it. Yeah, that's what we're saying. We all agree then.
We all 100% agreement.
Don't agree.
Can I say something?
Sure, Richard.
Hey, look, I just want to say this. Getting back to what we're talking about, I'm born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Went to Shiloh my whole life. If we're going to do this task force, let's get this money. Let's do what we got to do. We're experts, subject matter. Let's get this money. Let's save this next generation. Let's do it. Whether we done put money in the school in the past or not, we're here now. This is where we at. It's a new normal. We got to save these kids. We got to save ourselves. Saving these kids is saving ourselves. You know?
All right. So does that mean each of y'all are in agreement on the task force?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get it.
Shelley?
Yes.
I mean, I didn't hear you, so I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Are we in agreement that we need a task force, or are you asking us to be the task force? What was
I'm at both. Both.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh.
I have a question, and I don't know if we looked at it or not, or maybe I missed it.
Sure.
Where's the transparency in where our money goes? Like, I know, like at my community college, every year the president at the gives us the state of the union address, state of the college, where she shows where all of our money is going. Where does that happen? Do we ever see it on a conference level? Because aren't we the second richest denomination in the nation? In the world, like seriously, the second wealthiest. And how is it that they can't fund our schools? Where's the transparency? Where are they delineating exactly where our money is going to? So we can see the disparages. Like, because if they're sending our money someplace else, that's the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what type of system is in place? What types of checks and balances and what type of transparency paradigm exists in just these conferences on where the money goes and how it's allocated?
There's two things. Because of COVID, the conference has every 2 years between constituency meeting, they do a meeting where they tell you where the money goes. And it's supposed to be scheduled this time in the fall. And then the other time where they tell you the money goes or how it's been spent is at the constituency meeting.
I dare say that our denomination has the money to fund every Adventist institution. And if they have enough money, if you got every conference in the union got a high school but us. So to me, that is just no, ma'am.
Exactly.
Enough money to fund. And if there isn't, then, our president needs to say, well, how can I go back to my constituents if you got 5 in the union and they see that they don't have anything in their conference.
But no, Peggy, not the case.
We don't need somebody else. When we putting in 10 and 5, my parents put in 10 and 5. That probably Shelley's parents put in 10 and 5. Your grandma put in 10 and 5 for a million years. So I mean, don't tell me we got to go ask a corporation because they might not agree that we get to say, hey, the 7th day is a Sabbath. They might agree, but they might not agree.
Right.
So we need to know. We need some equity, and to me, that it's not a big deal to ask for equity. We need more than an African-American NAB president, because we had one in the 80s, and that's when Shiloh started going down in the early 90s. So we need some equity, financial equity. Like
I think, Peggy, you want to know the structure in terms of where the money's going, so you know how.
I know where the money's going because I can see who got this school. So that's Michelle wants to know where the money goes. I know where the money goes. I used to babysit Michelle because she's trying to be nice, but I got 4 kids. I know where the money goes and I know where it doesn't go. I know who's benefiting and I know who isn't benefiting. So I know whether you can tell Dr. Graham where the money goes, because Peggy knows where the money don't go.
I think we all agreed, Peggy, that it needs to be a restructuring, but also at the same time, we need to know where the money is. I mean, you're saying you know where the money goes by who's benefiting.
I know where the money doesn't go.
By who's benefiting. We're not disagreeing with that,
okay.
But what Shelley was asking for, where do we get the information? It's at your constituency meeting and it's at your midterm report. You can also ask the union treasurer to come to your church and to give you a breakdown of where the money goes. I've asked the union treasurer to come and give a breakdown of where the money goes so I can ask the question, why can't we move this money over here and provide those opportunities? The problem is, by and large, and our millennials brought this up to me, we did a show a few weeks ago, we don't understand how the system works. We don't understand how constituency meeting works. We don't understand how the budget works or where the money goes. We don't understand that. No one has taken the time to educate us about that. And we feel we have a right to know. And guess what? I agree with them 100%. I agree with them 100%. Because then when we understand what's happening, then we can say this is how we can restructure and make change, but also ensure equity. That's why Isaac Palmer's presentation, if you've seen it, is so important, because it talks about the disparity on a dollar coming from the Black community, or I should say the regional community versus the state community. It was an excellent presentation.
Well,
and I mean, we need to have that information.
Every Sabbath, when they're asking for the tithe and offering, let's hear part of that presentation. Every Sabbath. So that makes sure every constituent knows you send $1, you get a dime back, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I haven't heard the presentation. I'm just saying a number. And so, okay, let's be that. If we're gonna be that diligent, we're gonna be that intentional about, we gotta have these resources, tenant, whatever it is, the Lord says, pay, return this to me, I'm gonna take care of you, and all that's true. But then let's also have as intentional a discussion on how is it divvied up. This church might send you $50,000. I'm just picking a number. This church might send up $50,000 a month to the region. Okay, so if I'm sending $500,000 up, how much do you send back? What do I, just where is the hole? It seems like there's a black hole somewhere, but all I know is I look to my left, Cedar Lake. I look to my right, Wisconsin Academy. I look to my left, Michigan Academy. I look over here at Detroit, they closing that. I look over here at Shiloh, been closed. There is a financial inequity structurally in our denomination. And we don't want to address it because they people make us feel like we're like the bears need to come out of the woods and tear us up or something, like we're being disparaging against the Lord's anointed. No, we're not being that. We're just asking regular questions and making observations.
But Peggy, then why are we complacent with that? If we can look to the left and to the right.
People don't know, Richard. People, and everybody didn't go to Shiloh. I bet how many people that are at Shiloh went through Shiloh today. And Shiloh's a big church. So how many of the constituents today even send their kids to Adventist schools, or even think that it should be that way? Because the leaders don't make it a priority. Because a priority is every Sabbath, I want to know tithe and offering. I'm going to show you how much tithe we did, and I'm going to show you the budget, and I'm going to show you how much more we got to get for the month. I don't have a problem with that. But the priority got to be the same if we want to talk about educating kids. And if we don't want to talk about it, then let the school continue to go to the demise. But I'm telling you, when you don't meet people's needs, your church is going to go to a demise too. Because people now going to come in institutions where they can't get their kids educated. They're going to go to the other church. They're like, hey, I can teach my kids about the Sabbath. We can go over here. We can go to the wife. We can go to Hinsdale. I mean, it's frustrating because, you feel like, well, the bears are going to come out of the walls. No, the she bears are not coming out of the walls. We're not disparaging the Lord's anointing. We're just saying we got to have some financial equity, and we can't, you know, please, I pray to God that all my friends that are ministers will not take this the wrong way, but we can't expect people who get their check from these people to ask these questions, because they can't put, you know, they got a livelihood too. So, you know, the constituents have to demand it of our leaders. We can't make them the scapegoats for what we need. And we need it, and our kids need it. And if we don't get it, well, we're gonna just get more of the same.
All right, Darren, before we wrap this baby up, it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot has been said.
I got you, Shelley.
And I would say, as a millennial, and Woody, I saw the conversation, loved the conversation that you had with the millennials and the structuring, all of that. But as millennials, we have to go after the information. I know the information because I asked the questions. And the millennial in me is like, honestly, the system or the structure that we've had doesn't work. So I'm with Richard. Let's go somewhere else and get the monies that we need to restructure the system. We can sit and fuss and talk about the restructuring, where the money comes from, how much we actually need. The local schools know how much they need. The conference knows how much the schools need. But if we're going beyond that, it has to be outside of the conference. They want to move on at their pace. Let's move at a different one. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to be right back where we are 5 years from now talking the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's why the demise keeps going precipitously down, is because we're talking.
Yep.
And we're not solving anything, and we're frustrated. And I get the frustration because I have kids. I have generations of kids.
But when you go outside of the church, your money follows you. So
not necessarily, not if you're getting corporate money.
You're saying, so what Darren is, I might be misunderstanding. So Darren is saying we got to go outside and get money, but we got to continue to put money, 15%, 20%, whatever you're returning, of your income back into a system that is not servicing you.
That's not supporting you.
Darren, did I misunderstand you? Because you're saying, hey, leave that alone. We ain't talking about that. Ain't gonna change. We're gonna go out here and get this money. But you know, if I go out here and get this money, my dollar follows. If my daughter has to go to another school, my dollar follows. My dollar is gonna follow Shannon Stratford too. So how am I going to return to an organization that doesn't meet my needs?
You know what?
I gotta say, I gotta come out here to meet my needs.
Joe used to say,
hold on, Peggy. Go ahead, Richard.
Charlie Joe used to say, pay that tithe envelope from the bottom up, not that top down. Take care of your house. Take care of your house. Don't take care of that other.
So then that means I'm not putting money in a situation.
Let him finish.
No, I got you. But Charlie Joe used to say, stop working that tithe envelope from that top down. That means you're giving that money to the system that you're talking about. Work that tithe envelope from the bottom up. That's keeping that money in the house. That's making sure that the people that Shiloh or Stratford or wherever, that money is for them.
Well, or that money is for get Elder Woods in trouble.
Yeah, well, no, we ain't gonna get them in trouble.
But you can't get in trouble when you don't get a check.
Yeah, every time there's been need for change, it did not come from the top down. It came from the bottom up. It came from the people that saw a need and they said, we ain't taking this no more. We're not waiting. We're gonna make you. We're gonna make you do. We're gonna make you do it. I believe it was Lyndon Baines Johnson. I think no, it wasn't. It was Teddy Roosevelt that had A. Philip Randolph, first black at the White House, first black man to visit on a dignitary level at the White House. He said, I know everything that your people need. I know. Now go make me do it. Go make me give you what you're looking for. So that's what we have to do. We don't have to worry about, oh, we got to wait for the conference and we scared to go out to corporate America because they may change us or they're going to take away the Sabbath from us. We ain't supposed to be holding on to that. No, what Jesus coming. So if they try to change it, that means he coming closer. Anyway, let's get this money and do what we got to do to take care of these kids. Let's do what we have to do. Stop waiting on the conference, work the tithe envelope from the bottom up. Let's run it like it's supposed to be, like a business, not because we put our friend in office or whoever. If he ain't speaking the way we want him to, whoever the leader is, get him out. Get him out. And put people in there that have a heart for the school, for the system, for brown and black kids. And that's it to me.
Darren?
No, and I agree with you completely, Richard. If I'm on this task force with you, okay?
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I'm with you. And Peggy, it's not that I'm saying do not continue your 10 and 5 or your 10 and 10, whatever your distribution is, because that still has to run the schools the way they're being run right now. They're run on tithe and they're run on tuition. So you still have to do that. But while that's working and that pace is going very slow, we need to be working, as Richard say, to get this money. Let's get this
Shelley?
And okay, and just back to the checks and balances. I don't want to beg this point, but I kind of am. Do we have any type of outside auditors to make sure what they're reporting is accurate? Because apparently what they're reporting is it's not enough to give the brown schools the resources they need. Apparently that's what's coming out of these reports, is there's not enough money to make us, equal or at least just viable options for our kids and recruitment of other kids. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but like at a conference level, are there any outside auditors that come in and make sure these books are okay? Because if we're getting all this money and they still don't have any money for the black schools, where is it going? And what's the justification for sending it someplace else if it's there? If it's there and the books are in order, what is the justification for sending it elsewhere as opposed to our schools? We need it. Like, seriously, we've never had a new school. I think my grandmother was one of the founders of Shiloh. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, are there outside auditors? That's a real checks and balance. People whose checks are getting paid out of those checks and balances, it's not a real check and balance.
When you say outside auditors, you mean outside of the denomination, just so we're clear?
Yes. Again, like Peggy said, we can't expect those people to find fire when their checks are dependent upon it. And I would hope nobody would ask that of me. I'm not saying they're wrong for that, but that's their livelihood. Because my point is, if we have all these checks and balances and the result is still, I don't have money to send to Chicago or to the Lake Region Conference. Screw their children. Where's the money going? You know what I'm saying? I get we have inside people, but we need outside people to get real answers.
And I think that task force that you all are talking about is right on point. Catherine, anything you want to say before we close out? I want to make sure I give you your chance.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yes, I said it earlier that we need to bring all the people to the table that can make this happen. And with the task force, that's a beginning. That task force can meet with the leadership and express to them what we need, our desires, and how we would like to get a new school created. In what direction, how can we make that happen? So I think too often, from what I can see, I don't know if you all agree with me, but too often we have the wrong people sitting at the round table, making decisions that they're not really equipped to make. So, with a task force like this, coming to leadership, making sure that we have every T crossed and I dotted, we can maybe present a proposal of some kind or get some questions answered about the allocation of funding and that kind of thing. Because I would really like to know what happened to these schools.
And I think you're dead on. I think not just you, I think a lot of people want to know. I mean, because the rising costs of Adventist education, as we talked about it, and how the money is structured, all plays a role in that. And I think by having that task force, getting those questions answered, but people know you. They graduated with you. They went to school with you. I mean, you, Peggy, and Richard are all classmates. Y'all graduated. Y'all trust each other. Y'all passionate. I can hear you.
Richard, y'all much younger than me.
Okay, if he's much younger, forgive me, Peggy. I don't want to put you in a retirement home before it's time.
I ain't that much younger.
Years.
All right. So what I'm hearing, and Davon, thanks for bringing some levity to the conversation. You've done that as always. But Shelley, we appreciate your passion. Darren, you've been keeping it real. And Peggy, we need somebody like you because you're going to keep everybody honest. I don't care what their name is, what their title is, who they come from, who gets in trouble. You're going to keep everybody honest, whether it's a minister or the conference president or superintendent or somebody's daddy. You don't care because you're going to keep everybody honest. And Catherine, we thank you for sharing. And Richard, but the proof, as we all know, and shame on us if we're at the same point a year from now, because we had a robust conversation, we presented an action plan. We said we got to get a task force. We said we got to see what we can do now to make things better. And we've got to invest as alumni into our school. Those are three tangible things. If you're an alumnus of the Shiloh Chicago Academy Alumni Association, and you want to be a part of this task force, reach out to your president, the legendary Antoniah Lewis, and also reach out to the dean of the Alumni Association, our own, very own, and our beloved Marilyn Fouché, and say you want to be a part of it. You know, I mean, we can't even go back 1 minute, let alone 20 years. So either we're going to move forward together or we're going to just complain, and let the school shut down after we're done complaining. And that would be the biggest tragedy, because look at what this school has produced by looking at Catherine Kyle, looking at Dr. Michelle Graham, looking at Darren Daly, looking at Dr. Peggy Burns, looking at Richard Colley, looking at Davon Fouché, looking at Marilyn Fouché, looking at Antoniah Lewis and Sabrina Webb. Look at what this school has produced. So folks, we can kick the can and be mad about anybody and everybody and what they didn't do, but now is our time. This is our pivot. And by God's grace, we'll be better off a year from now than we were today, because we believe that the Shiloh Chicago Academy Alumni Associations are true stakeholders in the future of our school. And we want to make a difference by the grace of God so that our school not only survives, but thrives in years to come. I want to thank each and every one of our guests for the robust conversation, the truth to power. I knew y'all would be real provocative and transparent, but y'all went even further than I thought y'all would go. No surprise, but it was good. And it was good because at the end of the day, what it showed is you're still passionate about the school and the difference it made in your life and your career. And it is so tangible that you even have the passion now as if you were just there when you graduated. That, my friends, is the benefit of Christian education. That, my friends, is a benefit of a community and a neighborhood who invested in its children to ensure that not only their future would be strong, but bright and leave a legacy for years to come. So to all the principals and teachers that have endeavored and slaved tirelessly to ensure that quality education was given at Shiloh Chicago Academy, we say thank you, we say we love you, and we support you. To all of the sponsors, both past, present, and future, who continue to labor on behalf of Christian education, we say thank you, and we appreciate you, because we wouldn't be where we are today without you. To everyone, anywhere who's listening under the sound of my voice, that is investing in Christian education because you know it pays and makes a difference from eternity, be a part of the solution, because if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And we need to change it now, not 1 minute, but right now, so that we can make a difference, not only for today, but the future to come. Let's bow our heads. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you so much for your loving kindness, your grace, and your mercy. Lord, we thank you so much for the passionate and robust conversation. And Lord, the raw emotion and feelings. Lord, we know that each and every one that spoke today didn't mean any disrespect. They're not picking on people. They're not trying to make people feel sensitive. But Lord, they're seeking change. But not only are they seeking change, oh God, they're saying they're willing to be a part of that change so that they can be a solution to a systemic problem that has existed for years. But Lord, we know that every good gift and every perfect gift comes from above. So we ask, oh God, for a daily and fresh baptism of the Holy Spirit. We ask, oh God, that the Holy Spirit rest, rule, and move among us so that the change we want is not what we want from a self-interest, but one that will glorify and honor you, not just for today, but in the earth made new. And will be mindful and careful, oh God, in giving you the praise, the honor, and the glory. In the worthy and matchless name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
God bless each and every one of you. We'll turn it back over to Marilyn Fouché. If not Marilyn Fouché, Antoniah Lewis. I'm not sure who's coming back. All right, if no one's coming back.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to thank each of you all for being on the panel. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because the Zoom thing came up. Anyway, I want to thank each of you all for being on the panel. It was such a invigorating and a much needed conversation that we've needed to have. I'm going to be getting in touch with each one of you all for that task force. The Alumni Association normally takes September off after we do Alumni Weekend. So be looking forward for us to be in contact with you in beginning with October so that we can see what dates we need to set up for that, so we can get another Zoom meeting and we can really get going on this. This has been a passion of my heart, and I'm so happy that you all are interested in this. We thank you for this Alumni Weekend, and we'll see you all soon. Love you all.
God bless. Take care, everyone.
Peggy.